Hello everyone and welcome to another video in our Crazy Leela and Odds Leela series. Another series of games from Leela's Queen Odds games. And we start off with this one, and it looks basically like, well, whatever's going to happen is either black going to be winning or it's going to be a draw. I mean, we've got a knight up, king's next to the pawns, and black's got a pass b pawn. Well, what happened here? King f3 was played, knight d5, so bringing the king back to help defend the pawns. That feels pretty good. And after e6, black played the move knight g6, just to cover everything, keep the white king at bay, and just getting ready to push the pawn on b4 there. So Leela played the move knight h7, and maybe your first little test can be what happens after king takes h7. Pretty obvious, just play the move e7 and then you can't stop one of those pawns from queening. So knight h7 is a pretty tricky move. Black played the move b4 here. Leela played the move king d3, which is actually, in actual fact, an unbelievably cunning move. And black here played the move b3, which is incredibly natural. What did Leela play now? Sorry, needing a sip of water there. Well, what Leela did here was to play the great move f8 queen. And after knight takes f8, just give you a moment in case you haven't spotted it. That's right, it's e7, and there's no way you can stop this pawn. It's a typical little tactic. Knight's always very tricky, and you either take on f8 or you go e8, and it's actually winning for white queen against two knights. Why on earth was the move king d3 sneaky? Well, of course, after b4, I could have played the move f8 here, but then black goes knight takes e7. And then, can you spot it? Knight h7, that's right. And if you go e8 queen, then knight f6 check is rather annoying. So that's why Leela played the move king d3, just to get the king out of the way of that. And after b3, then f8 queen happened. And black's best, by the way, was to play one of these moves, like, for example, knight e5 or knight f4, and then just take the pawn. But of course, that's just going to be a draw then. Well, this is a rather painful story for black. Obviously, white's got a piece back. Those pieces are terrible. A passed h pawn, and the black king doesn't have that many squares either, and on top of that there's a knight on f4 hanging. Black played the move queen c7 here. How did Leela finish this off? There's a lot of stuff that's very good, but bishop f6 check, king d6 and e5 checkmate is obviously by far the best. Now, this was a pretty typical sort of fight, really. I mean, Leela's been a queen down, now got rook and knight for the queen. Still some problem with some rather fast pawns, and the black queen's very active, but okay. I mean, it doesn't look like there's any danger at all, but, you know, obviously black was a little bit nervous about putting the king onto the c6. Probably worried about getting the king close to the queen, so black decided to keep the king far away from the queen. And here Leela played the little cunning little move, rook c3, just nudging the black queen. And black played the queen to e2 here. So what did Leela play now? Well, amazingly enough, there is the move rook b3. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we're threatening rook to b8 check. And that's checkmate. So black played king d8. And now can you spot the finishing move? Well, we need to stop the black king from getting to e7 and also stop it from squeezing out to c7 either. So just bishop d6 is very strong. And the point is that yeah, that bishop on f3 is not doing very much, restricted by the pawns on e4 and g4, and after king e8, rook b8 check, making grateful use of the pawn on f7 to keep the black king pinned down. So after rook b3, black was completely lost. Actually, what the only black way to play, still good for black, was to play queen g1 to keep attacking the knight on c5 so that you don't have the chance to play rook b3. That was the only way to do it. Incredible, huh? Absolutely amazing. Now, this is another one of those typical situations where you you sort of think, well, you know, black's no longer a queen up, but I mean, things have got very much liquidated. The white position looks like a wreck. Yeah, this has been okay somehow. So black played king takes d6. Leela just randomly put a rook onto the 7th rank. And black said, okay, well, let's get my knight in there. I'll attack the rook on f7. I don't care about the b pawn or anything. Let's just get the knight in there. Maybe the knight's going to come round to c4 and, you know, soon be over. Well, that was right. But who was it over for? Yeah, it was over for black because bishop b4 check out of nowhere was just a checkmate. And yeah, this move rook f7 was not as useless as you might think. It was cutting the king off from c7 and d7, and then the bishop on b4 gives check. By playing knight e5, black unprotected the b4 square. It's one of those emerging tactics I talked about, I think, in the last video, where you know, there's a move that you play creates a tactic basically, or you know, makes a certain tactic dangerous. Easy to miss those, and yeah, black missed this one in this case. Yeah, this is a very interesting one. I mean, again, black's been doing fairly well, lost a piece for the queen, but got some pretty dangerous pawns, of course. But the king's also in a little bit of danger here. So how did Leela play here? Well, I guess the first moves are kind of obvious. You take, and you go rook d8 check. And now black's got two possibilities, so just work out what to do against each of them. Well, actually, yeah, I mean, after king a7, you can play knight to c8 here, and yeah, if king a8, knight b6 check is actually a draw. Yeah, the engines don't really say much about knight d6. I guess that this is not actually that amazing for white, even if you pick up the queen there. King a7, knight f7, presumably something like, yeah, maybe rook f6 to f2 or something like that is going to prove a little bit difficult for black, for white rather. So so the engines are just saying that that would be a draw. But the gorgeous thing is that if you play as black did in the game, how does white play in this position? Well, it's another one of those stunning corner knight mates. Quite incredible. Knight a8 checkmate. Amazing, huh? Bishop covers the c6 square. Knight gives check, covers b6. The rook covers the 8th rank, and of course the rooks cover the d file. Absolutely amazing, that one. Yeah, there's one player who seems to keep on trying to set up sort of these incredible barriers against Leela's play, but has not been very successful, even against queen odds. Actually, white's already better in this position, whatever you do. But black played the move king d8. So how did Leela finish it off? As you'd expect, knight check and bishop e5 checkmate. And well, those light squares, those pawns on light squares, somehow they say that they sort of create dark squared weaknesses, and that's definitely true. So yeah, black just lost there. Now, this is another one of those situations where you find it Utterly incredible to believe that Leela managed to create any danger at all for black from here. So again, against a very strong player. So king b1 played. I mean, black is just a queen, a whole queen for a rook up here. So Leela plays rook f4 here, and I mean the simplest thing would be to get just to check and then play king g7 and keep the pawn on f6. But black played queen g3, which is a little bit strange in a way, because after all, you know, you would really you want to keep pawns on both sides, right? I mean, the more you have pawns on one side, the more white might end up in a rook versus queen fortress. You know, that's always the danger. But rook takes f6 was played, and obviously black maybe got a little bit nervous about playing king g7 when rook g6 happened. So he played the move king h5. And now what did Leela play? Well, the key move here is bishop e2 check. And, well, black in the game, black played king h4. And can you see it? It was rook h6 checkmate. I mean, really out of nowhere, just a checkmate. The queen and the knight obviously conspiring to keep the black king pinned to the h file, and rook h6 delivers checkmate. I mean, black actually had a way of still getting a draw. It's a bit lucky, really, that rook takes f3 would allow queen e1 check, picking up the bishop. But yeah, bishop f3, king g5, rook f8, and it's just going to be a draw. But incredible there to go from this position where you think, well, there's one thing that's sure, black can never lose this, and just end up getting mated, you know, sort of 6 moves later. Absolutely incredible how these things happen in Leela games. Another situation really where you sort of say, well, I wouldn't really expect there to be too much danger, but there is. After bishop b8 check, king b7, knight c5 check. Actually, it seems that that this position is actually a draw, but with some slight problems for black. I'll show you one idea. If king a8, we go bishop c7 check, king e8, and rook e6, and this unbelievably evil move is just threatening rook takes a6 check. The only way that black can possibly resist is to give a knight away and put the queen back on c8. And then Leela just pins the queen and wins with 2 extra pieces. Absolutely incredible, this one. Bishop c7 check and rook e6. Just, you know. So after knight c5, the best move actually was to play king b6 when this is actually a draw. You'll notice that the c6 square is mined because of knight e5 check, forking the queen and the king. Unbelievable. Unbelievable to notice these things. So black played the move king c6, and now rook c8 check happened. And this is getting rather painful for black. So the key problem is that king b5, we get the move knight a4. And we're threatening rook c5 check here, which is really, really unpleasant. So black plays king g1, then white plays rook c7. You're just threatening to play bishop a7 here, kick the queen away, and then deliver the check on c5. And it's just not possible to hold this. Queen d4, king a2, bishop c7. I mean, it's extremely complicated, right? But essentially the queen's being chased away from the d4 square, and the rook's going to give a rook c5 check, and we'll get into c3 later, for example. We'll go knight c3 check as well. So that line, even that line is winning, but black played the move after rook c8, king b6, and that's the one that I want for you. How does white win this? And I don't think you will have seen this mating pattern too often. So the key idea is knight d7 check. So if you go king b5, I go rook check, king b4, and now c3 check. That's the one. And after king b7, I'll just give you a little moment just in case you didn't see that one. I go rook c7 check. This knight is covering b6 and b8. And after king a8, not knight b6, because that would leave the bishop en prise, but rook a7 checkmate. Amazing, huh? I mean, look how this happened from here. It's just hard to believe, really. I mean, bishop b8 check, knight c5 check, rook c8 check, knight d7. Incredible. Just king hasn't been able to escape, partly due to the fact that any move to the c6 square would allow knight e5, forking the queen and king. Absolutely amazing. This one's just a nice easy one, but I thought a mate with 4 minor pieces was quite nice. How does white finish this off? Looks like a shogi mate, to be honest, where you're crowding around with the, what are they, the generals, the silver and the gold generals. Knight c7 check and checkmate. Lovely combination there. Didn't need that rook on a1. This is a very typical combination. So looked like black was sort of escaping a little bit. Leela put the pawn on h6, but queen c5 happened, threatening mate on c2, c3, bishop h8, and then Leela was cunning with bishop e3. Yeah, just whenever you try to be clever as black, you know, you always get hit somehow. And after bishop e5, Leela just gave up the rook on d4, which was surprising. So takes. And black thought, well, I've got lots of material, time to just consolidate, get some control of the dark squares, and then we'll be fine. But what had black missed? It's pretty typical. You see a lot of them. h7 check, that's right. Only one move, king h7, and then rook h1 and rook h8. I mean, these are well-known tactics, and I'm sure that, you know, black players would solve them in a puzzle. But somehow, you know, they keep on getting disguised in Leela's games. You know, they come out of nowhere and you sort of say, oh, well, I'm just winning material, I'm fine. Instead of playing the only move, queen takes d4, you play queen e7, and then you get hit with this one and you say, oh, God, of course. I should have seen that one coming. This was a really nice one, actually. So, you know, obviously, you know, white's got some pressure against the black king, but it doesn't look incredible somehow, you know, and it looks like black should be able to survive it. And you know, Leela took on there, a takes b5. I mean, there's some danger if you move the rook over here, but you put the king on e7, you put the rook on b8, you deal with it, and then you get a rook to e8, and you're going to be fine there. I mean, it just looks fine, but actually this position is completely winning for white. Can you find the move that wins? Quite unexpectedly, it's bishop f2. And what's the idea? We're just going to push the a-pawn all the way. There's nothing that black can do. Just cut in half with this bishop on c6 here. So black played rook e8, just trying to give away material desperately, but Leela just ignored it with a6. And after rook e4, a7, black resigned, because the next move is going to be a8 queen. Or even a8 rook with checkmate. Incredible. Just kind of out of nowhere there, but it's that typical thing, quality of pieces, it can achieve amazing things. And that's actually against the same player. So, well, I mean, here, you know, white's done pretty well, Leela's done pretty well, got a rook for the queen so far. But black decided that it was time to sort of liquidate the stuff. Take the pieces off. Knight takes f4. Rook f1 and then knight d3. Hup. What can go wrong now? No mating material left. Time to sort of cash in. So you don't want to go. You don't want to give away that bishop. You don't want to go to the back rank because of rook h8. But let's keep the bishop protected and stay off the back rank, and then we'll just bring the rook into f8 and we'll be fine. What had black missed? There are just mates everywhere when Leela's playing, and rook e7 is checkmate. So there we are. Hope you're enjoying these. I'm loving these, I have to say. It's just a voyage of discovery, and I just, you know, you just notice just how many things there are in positions, how many things that you know can go wrong somehow. And you know, some of these are played at very fast time control. Some of them are bullet, but some of them are, you know, 15 plus 10, 30 plus 30. You know, one of the games. So, you know, it's just obviously that, you know, players are just finding this really hard to deal with. You know, all the inventiveness and the tactical wizardry that Leela's bringing to the game. And well, I mean, simply, it's worth looking at it yourselves. Don't despair in much worse positions. There's bound to be tactics there. Just think what Leela's discovering here, and then hopefully that'll inspire you in your own games. So there we are. Hope you're enjoying it. Do give a like and subscribe if you do, and otherwise hope to see you at the next one. Thanks for watching.